All right, let's talk a little college basketball, and I hold right here the NCAA tournament bracket. It is that time of the year, and let's get right into it. Let's start with the bad. This time of year, everyone's outraged with what the committee did or didn't do. We'll start with the bad, and we'll work our way through the entire bracket and give you my thoughts on really almost everything you can talk about. I thought the committee did a poor job in a lot of different areas. First of all, what they did to Michigan State was ridiculous. Here are some facts about Michigan State. Big Ten regular season conference champions. Big Ten tournament champions. Keep in mind, the Big Ten conference had the most teams get into the NCAA tournament with 8. Michigan State had the most quadrant 1 wins of any team in the country with 13. Yet, the Spartans were the lowest ranked 2 seed and got put in the same region as the number 1 overall seed, Duke. I don't get it. And then think about this. Michigan State beat Michigan not once, not twice, but 3 times. And yet Michigan was the higher ranked 2 seed. What? Oh, and by the way, there is a chance Michigan State might have to play a Big Ten conference opponent in the second round, being Minnesota. And then maybe beyond that, they might have to play Maryland in the Sweet 16. And you know where that game would be located? Washington, D.C. So it would be almost like a de facto home game for the Terps. And just as we're laying it all out there for Michigan State, you realize, so Michigan State played on Sunday, the Big Ten tournament title game against Michigan, beat them. They're going to have to play on Thursday, so they don't get that extra day of rest to maybe play on Friday. And you understand, Michigan State, they're shorthanded with injuries. Almost all their starters are playing 30-plus minutes, so this bench is not very deep. Good grief. I don't know what the committee was thinking with Michigan State. I thought there was a chance that the Spartans could play their way onto the 1 line, and they get the lowest 2 seed, which makes me think the Big Ten needs to take a good hard look at having conversations about moving their conference tournament finals to Saturday and not Sunday. The reality is having your conference tournament finals wrap up 20 minutes before the NCAA tournament selection show begins might not be the best idea in the world. Clearly, the winner of that game didn't have much bearing on how the bracket shook out. I thought Michigan State got a raw deal. And then while we're talking about the committee and maybe things they did wrong, I thought the committee whiffed on a couple of other things. A part of the fun of the NCAA tournament is you get to see matchups you wouldn't normally see. And while we're talking about the Big Ten, the lack of balance with these Big Ten teams across these 4 regions is just silly. So there are 3 teams in the East region. There's 1 Big Ten team in the West region. There's 3 in the South region, and then 1 in the Midwest. Why not balance it and go 2-2-2-2, or just try to make it a little more balanced? Michigan State could potentially face 4 Big Ten teams en route to the national championship game. 4. Michigan State or Minnesota might have to play back-to-back conference foes in the round of 32 and the Sweet 16. So you could have 3 teams in the South Regional Finals, which is just ridiculous. And then on top of all that, here it's just little things that just annoy me, just little things. So Michigan's first round opponent this year is Montana. That's the 2-15 matchup. You want to take a guess who Michigan played in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year? Montana. So it's not fair to Michigan. It's not fair to Montana. A part of the fun is seeing new teams getting different matchups. To me, that is something that is easily avoidable. Another thing, Kentucky and Seton Hall could play each other in the second round. They've already played each other this year. Another roadblock that could have been easily avoided. And lastly, how about this? So North Carolina is the 1 seed in the Midwest. They would potentially have to play Kansas, the 4 seed, in the Sweet 16 in Kansas City. they might as well just go 45 minutes down the road and play that game in Allen Fieldhouse, because that is going to be a de facto home game for KU. So there just are a bunch of different things that I thought the committee whiffed on. But let's go to the brackets themselves and let's talk about the 1 seeds. I was fine with the 1 seeds. I know people squirm and go, oh gosh, ACC bias, having 3 ACC teams. I thought they were all deserving. Duke, the number 1 overall seed, listen, they were the best team from start to finish. Have no issues with that. Virginia, they only lost 3 games on the season. They have an incredible resume. They are ACC champs. North Carolina, they also won the ACC, splitting it with Virginia. They beat Duke twice. They're the best rebounding team in the country. And then I don't have any issue with Gonzaga getting a 1 seed. I know the numbers and the metrics might not be great when pitted against other top seeds, but the eye test has to be a part of this thing. It can't be all net rankings, RPI, KenPom. There has to be some watching the games and understanding the game and watching it. I don't understand how you could watch this team play and think they aren't one of the 4 best teams in the country. They absolutely, to me, are one of the top 4 teams in the country when you watch them play. I didn't have any issue with the 1 seeds. And then when you think about the bubble teams that were stressed out on Selection Sunday, I really didn't have an issue with the last 4 teams that got into the NCAA tournament. Listen, every single resume of those last 4, 5, 6, 7 teams on the bubble can be picked apart. I can build a case for Indiana getting in, just like I can build a case against Belmont getting in. I got no issue with Arizona State getting into the NCAA tournament, going to the play-in game. They do have 3 great wins. They beat Kansas. They beat Utah State. They also beat Mississippi State. St. John's, they swept Marquette. I've watched this team play live a couple different times. This team is super talented. Shamori Pons is a superstar. When they're locked in and juiced up, they're as dangerous as anybody. Belmont, listen, I know they got swept by Jacksonville State. They lost to Green Bay, but they also only lost 5 games all season, and they are one of the best offensive teams in the country. And Temple has one of the best wins in the country, beating Houston. So I'm fine with those teams getting in. And the teams that are complaining and upset, NC State, listen, your non-conference strength of schedule, almost dead last in the country at 352. Sorry, that's not good enough. TCU, you got swept by all the top teams in the Big 12 Conference. You don't have any great non-conference win. Sorry. Clemson, you have 1 Quadrant 1 win. 1. And you play in the ACC. You had 11 chances to get Quadrant 1 wins, and you won 1 of them. Sorry. Not going to feel bad for you. Indiana, at one point this season, from the early January to mid-February, you lost 12 of 13 games. There was a month-long stretch where you went 1-12. NCAA tournament teams just don't do that. And Texas, I get it. You beat North Carolina and you beat Purdue in the non-con. You probably would have been the team that I would have pegged to slide in if I had to choose one. But you were also 16-16 overall. You're a 500 team. Sorry. So at the end of the day, I was fine with who the committee put into those last 4 spots and who they left out. Again, everybody, all those teams have a reason to be left out of the tournament. They all have resumes you can pick apart. It is what it is. And so with that, let's just go through this. How about that? Let's just go through the bracket region by region. I'm going to give you some thoughts here. Let's start in the East region. That's Duke, number 1 overall seed. First of all, I think they have a really easy path to get all the way to the Elite 8. I don't see very much turbulence for them. I don't think VCU or Central Florida can slow down the big 3 of RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Cam Reddish. So I like Duke to cruise in that region quite a bit. Virginia Tech and St. Louis is going to be an interesting game. Ever since Justin Robinson got hurt and trying to work him back in, they just haven't totally been the same team. The Hokies have been a little bit different. And listen, St. Louis can defend. That's a game that I would keep an eye on. Plus, there's a little bit of chatter about Buzz Williams and maybe looking at some other jobs. Could be a little distracting. That's a game that I would absolutely keep an eye on. Maryland is an interesting team. They're one of the youngest teams in the country at the 6th seed. You have Belmont and Temple was a playing game to play the Terps. What'd be interesting is if Belmont punches through. Belmont's got a smaller front line. They all can shoot the 3. They spread you out. Maryland plays 2 traditional bigs in Smith and Bruno Fernando. Be interesting to see which style would prevail if that ultimately was the matchup. Again, we talked about Michigan State, how much they got a raw deal. I still love Cassius Winston. What this guy's done this year has been tremendous. I think he's great. When you look in the West region, Gonzaga, the 1 seed. really tricky second round game potentially between Syracuse and Baylor for Gonzaga. Here's the reason I really like Gonzaga to come out of the first weekend. They're going to have the entire week to work on their zone offense. Baylor plays zone, Syracuse plays zone. So no matter who they see in the second round, they know they're going to be seeing a 2-3 zone. So Gonzaga is going to be totally ready to go to take on a 2-3. And the other thing about beating a zone, a lot of people talk about you got to make 3-point jump shots. That's true to beat a zone, but you also got to offensive rebound it and have good post passers to go high post, short corner, and operate. With Hachimura, Clark, those guys really good in there. I like Gonzaga to come out of the first weekend unscathed. The best first round matchup, absolutely the best, is the 5-12 matchup in the West region, Marquette and Murray State. You get two of the most explosive, electric, exciting guards in all of college basketball. Marcus Howard, Marquette. This guy's a National Player of the Year candidate. He's gone for 50 a couple times in his career. Then you got Ja Morant with Murray State. This guy is outstanding. 24 points a game, 10 assists a game. He leads the nation in assists. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. Marquette has been reeling a little bit. They lost 4 in a row at the end of the year. They did win a game in the Big East tournament, but they've been turnover prone. They lack another ball handler outside of Marcus Howard. I think Ja Morant can give Marquette problems. And I think Murray State's got a great opportunity to knock off Marquette. That's going to be a fantastic game. And then the thing that's so interesting when you look at the West region, Buffalo and Texas Tech and Nevada are 3 of my favorite teams. Buffalo and Texas Tech seeing each other in the second round potentially would be one of the best first weekend games you could watch. You talk about 2 hard-nosed, tough teams that can really defend. They can score in a variety of ways. I am kind of heartbroken because I love those 2 teams. I wanted to advance them deep in my bracket. I think Buffalo's got a really good shot to knock off the Red Raiders. And then Michigan, they're going to have their hands full with Nevada in the second round. I think Nevada's going to beat Florida. And you look at Nevada, they got the Martin brothers, Jordan Caroline. They're a bunch of 22, 23-year-old veteran guys. They're going to be able to not be afraid of Michigan or the moment. Now, I lean Michigan in that matchup, but don't sleep on that one because that is a situation that Michigan could get sent home early because Nevada's the real deal. When you go to the South region, I think it's a really good path for Virginia to exercise the demons of UMBC from a year ago and make it all the way to the Elite Eight. The big thing with Virginia is teams that are athletic and can speed them up. And there isn't any matchup in that regional until they get to the Elite Eight that could do that. If they play Ole Miss in the second round, Ole Miss will play zone. Virginia can really shoot it. They'll pick that apart. And then you look at Oregon playing a matchup zone potentially. Wisconsin slows it down. Kansas State plays a slower pace. All that really helps out a team like Virginia. So I think they're in a really, really good spot. Speaking of the 5-12, though, Wisconsin and Oregon, I think Oregon has a great opportunity to upset the Badgers. First of all, Wisconsin has to travel to San Jose, which there's going to be a lot of Green and Duck fans there cheering on Dana Altman's crew. Dana Altman's crew has been hot down the stretch. They won the Pac-12 tournament. They sit in a matchup zone. It's going to make conventional post-ups difficult for Ethan Happ. They're going to be dramatically more athletic than Wisconsin. I like Oregon to win that game a lot. And then I think Oregon could punch through to the Sweet 16 depending on the status of Dean Wade at Kansas State. I love the Wildcats. I think they're a grizzled veteran group, but they need Dean Wade's versatile scoring. Keep an eye on the Ducks potentially punching all the way through. And then Villanova and Purdue second round matchup could be fantastic. You got 2 lead guards in Phil Booth on one side and Carson Edwards on the other. That matchup's going to be really interesting. I think Purdue's got a really good shot to make it out of this regional. I think Carson Edwards, he's been struggling a little bit, but this group is understands who they are. I think Edwards could get it rolling. I think Tennessee's a team that I've just been not high on throughout the year. They get blasted before they're heading to the NCAA tournament by Auburn. I'm fading Tennessee right now. And then you look at the Midwest region. I think North Carolina's in a great spot to go all the way to the Elite Eight. When you can control the glass, you can control every game you're in. And White at the point guard spot is fantastic. They got Luke May. They got guys in the interior that can do damage. I think Houston and Kentucky as a matchup to go to the Elite Eight could be the premier matchup of this entire regional. Houston, Corey Davis Jr. is really, really good. It's a Houston team that is the real deal. And then Kentucky, they're a team that I feel like has gotten better each and every week. It's going to be fun to see what those teams can do when they lock horns in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Ultimately, I think whoever wins the Duke-Gonzaga Final Four semifinal matchup is going to win the national championship. In my opinion, those have been the two best teams all season long. I think they're going to meet in the Final Four. I like whoever wins that game to win the NCAA tournament. But it's going to be fun in the meantime. March Madness is here. This is going to be a blast. I can't wait for the games to get started.